everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies, where I bring you a lot of news in a short time frame. I'm your host, Millennial Meditations, and we've got a lot to talk about. Some local news here in Ohio, a lot of stuff about Trump, and some not so family-friendly stuff toward the end of the episode. So if you appreciate this content, hit that like button, share with the normies in your life, because that's who I'm trying to go for with these videos. And follow me on the socials. I will leave those in the description below the video. Go follow me on all those, and let's keep doing a number to the corporate media, because they all lie, both sides. So before we get into any news, I don't have any conspiracy theories this week, but it's been a while since I broke out the old tinfoil top hat, so figured it needed to make an appearance this week. All right, on to the news. So starting off with Ohio, a proposed bill here in the state of Ohio would permit the sale of raw milk directly from farmers to consumers. Ohio Bill HB 406 is currently waiting for committee assignment in the Ohio House of Representatives. So it has not passed yet. It hasn't even made it out of committee. So I personally think this is a decent idea. However, should it pass, farmers would have to test the milk for things like salmonella, listeria, and E. coli once per month, and require liability waivers to be signed by the customers when they make a purchase. This is something that has gained a lot of traction since COVID, and of course, consuming any kind of raw food has some sort of liability to it. You see it at restaurants when you order a burger or something and they cook it the way you want it to be cooked. There's always a little thing at the bottom of the menu that says, eating raw or undercooked food could result in, serious disease or injury. Take this at your own risk or whatever. So, but a lot of people have criticized, the milk industry. So I think this is ultimately good for, people to have more choice on the things that they buy. Now, moving to Florida. I just saw this one recently, and this kind of had my blood boiling a little bit. A teacher in Florida is facing the revocation of her teaching license after labeling one of her students a, quote, dictator in training, end quote, and tried to force him to accept a certificate which read, most likely to become a dictator. And here is the student's mother at a school board meeting talking about this incident.
My son, 6 years old, was prohibited from sitting next to his friend on the school bus because a parent objected to my perspectives on book challenges. My older son's history teacher allowed students to label him a Nazi file simply for his interest in history and participation in ROTC. She later nominated my son as the most likely to become a dictator and had his classmates vote on it and try to force him to the front of the class to receive the certificate, which he rightly refused, all because of his conservative values and our perspectives.
Thank you. James.
So what wasn't mentioned in the video is that the teacher's name is Lauren Watts, and this actually happened in 2023. However, I saw this on Instagram the other day, of all places, and it seems like this might be gaining a little traction. So I hope that Lauren Watts is fired and blacklisted from teaching anymore, because this kind of behavior from teachers is abhorrent. And I would say the same thing if a teacher was trying to promote some kind of white supremacy bullshit on their students and made a black student sit in the back corner of the classroom just because they're black. Like, that'd be horrible too. And so, so much for schools having a zero tolerance policy on bullying. Also, a theme for this might be to just protect your kids, and we'll get into that later. So now it's time for the Trump segment of this episode, and this is going to be a pretty big segment. So President Trump met with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, on Monday, August 18th, as well as several leaders from Europe to further discuss a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. And this time, Zelensky actually wore a suit.
I've got a question for each of you.
Yes.
First of all,
President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks
Isn't
good
that
on
nice?
you.
That's the one that attacked you last time. See, now he's I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed, you are not.
Maybe yours is much better than mine.
So after this meeting, Trump spoke with other European leaders to discuss plans for security of Ukraine that would be led by Europe with the help from the United States once a peace deal is put in place. So it's not going to be the U.S. policing the world. It is going to be Europe taking care of their own backyard with some assistance from us. However, on the night of August 21st, Russia attacked a factory in Ukraine owned by an American they attacked a factory in Ukraine owned by an American company called Flex Ltd. Now, this company manufactures home appliances such as coffee machines, so this kind of strike seems to me as very deliberate. The attack on this facility killed one person and injured 15 more after Russian forces launched 574 drones and 40 ballistic/cruise missiles. So again, that just shows that the Russian military is kind of inept. I mean, if you only killed one person with that much, ballistic and explosive material, then either your people don't know how to fight or they just don't want to. So hopefully an end to the Ukraine war comes soon. Moving on, more about Trump. He is aiming to end mail-in ballots for federal elections. To me, it is unclear how he will do this, as voting methods are left to each state to decide. If you're old enough to remember, this is why the hanging chads thing was a scandal in the early 2000s in Florida, because it was like a punch card thing, and some of them didn't punch all the way through, so they're like, we don't know if this is an actual vote or not. So, however, I'm of the opinion that this is a good idea, as seen from this little incident out of Michigan. Now, this guy, his name is Abu Musa from the Hamtramck, I think is how you say it, city council, and he won his election with 1,129 votes, but apparently over 800 of those were absentee or mail-in ballots. So it's like, interesting. It's almost like the things the Democrats say aren't happening is actually happening. So I think the absentee ballots have a place for people who are deployed overseas or something. But if you're in the United States, get your ass to a voting location. It's not that hard. It really isn't. And just vote on the same day. Why was it that 20 years ago we had elections and knew what the results were that night, but now with all the smart technology we have, it takes a week to figure out what the election results were? It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm going to turn down a little setting here real quick. Sorry about that. There we go. So my little audio level was peaking in the red, so I wanted to turn that down to make sure no issues happen with the audio. So Trump took another shot at the Smithsonian museums with a recent post on Truth Social that read, "The museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. This country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including our museums." So I agree with the sentiment here about getting away from constantly casting the United States as the bad guy. But I would push back on ignoring the bad parts of our history, because that's history. Slavery in the U.S. was bad. And even the founding fathers had very fiery debates about it when signing the Constitution. But I should have included the clip from Jillian Michaels here. She recently went on a tear about this, but she pointed out that it was other African tribes that were enslaving people in Africa and selling them to whoever, and that was how slavery expanded into Europe and then eventually North America, and even into South America too, all over the world. But I would also point out, if I was Trump, that it was Britain that first ended slavery in the Western world in the 1830s. And then the United States fought a very bloody civil war over slavery, where more people died in the Battle of Gettysburg than the entire Vietnam War. I'm sorry, more Americans died at Gettysburg than in the entire Vietnam War. If you don't know the history of the Battle of Gettysburg, it took place over 3 days. There were more than 60,000 dead and a lot more wounded and missing. So that was way more than all of the American casualties in the Vietnam War. Also, if I was Trump, I would have worded the part about slavery differently, as well as pointing out that slavery still exists in much of Africa, the Middle East, and China. They have the Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps in China, forcing them to do labor. So it still exists in a lot of the world, but the Western world has largely ended it. Now, this is a funny one, and I like this idea. Trump wants the southern border wall painted black so it will be physically hotter to the touch in an effort to keep people from climbing the wall.
Have you seen this? We talked about it a little bit off the top. The DHS Secretary Kristi Noem at the border today, painting the border wall black. And as she did that today, did you hear what the top Democrat in Washington is threatening as it relates to possibly her future when we return?
So on top of this, I think that they should install loudspeakers every 20 feet or so on top of the wall with the song Paint It Black playing 24/7 to keep people away too, because that song is just absolutely annoying and gets stuck in your head every time you hear it. And I apologize if it's now stuck in your head because I mentioned it. But yeah, I like it. I like it. And speaking of the southern border and what goes on south of the border, the Trump administration is going to send a multitude of warships off the coast of Mexico, Latin America, and in the Caribbean to deal with drug cartels. Among these ships are 3 Aegis-equipped destroyers, a submarine, a missile cruiser, as well as 1 P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft, and the USS Iwo Jima. On top of all this, there will be over 4,000 Marines and sailors from the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit. And likewise, the Trump administration has raised the bounty on President Maduro from Venezuela from $25 million to $50 million.
The Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country. To date, the DEA has seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to Maduro and his associates, with nearly 7 tons linked to Maduro himself, which represents a primary source of income for the deadly cartels based in Venezuela and Mexico. Cocaine is often laced with fentanyl, resulting in the loss and destruction of countless American lives. The DOJ has seized over $700 million of Maduro-linked assets, including 2 private jets, 9 vehicles, and more. Yet Maduro's reign of terror continues. He is one of the largest narco-traffickers in the world and a threat to our national security. Therefore, we've doubled his reward to $50 million. Under President Trump's leadership, Maduro will not escape justice and he will be held accountable for his despicable crimes. If you have any information to bring this criminal to justice, call 1-202-307-4228 or go online.
So good on the administration for, continuing to tackle this issue that has plagued our country for far too long. And thousands upon thousands of people die every year from drug overdoses, more so than all of the wars combined. Like, I can't substantiate that fact, but a lot of people die from drug overdoses. So good on them for continually tackling this issue. And speaking of pesky issues, the Trump administration is increasing tariffs on India for buying Russian oil. President Trump claims that India is, quote, fueling the Russian war machine, end quote, in regards to the Russia-Ukraine war. These tariffs may affect Apple, as the company is moving a significant portion of their iPhone production from to India from China. So if you buy a new iPhone in a year or so, it may cost you more. Also, iPhones suck. They always steal technology from, the Google-driven phones, whether it's Samsung or Galaxy, or Galaxy is Samsung, but they always take the stuff that the Samsung and Google-powered phones use and then claim it as their own like 3 years later. So, so much on making fun of non-iPhone people. All right. Now, the Trump administration is reviewing visas for 55 million people in the United States with the goal of finding violations that could lead to deportation. So if you're upset about this, remember that holding a visa in the United States means that you are a guest in this country. And coming here is a privilege for foreigners, not a right. Also, think about the housing market right now. If even half of those 55 million people are sent back to their home country, the cost of buying or renting a home should come down dramatically, because that's the law of supply and demand. This comes just days after an illegal alien from India made an illegal U-turn on a California highway that resulted in the death of 3 people. I know this clip has been going viral, so you've probably already seen it. However, I felt like it was relevant to bring up because, this is news for normies, so maybe not everybody saw it. If you're wondering how this guy was able to do this, he snuck into the country in 2018 into California, somehow got a CDL, commercial driver's license, from that shithole state, even though he couldn't pass an English exam before obtaining the license, and just started driving truck all across the country. So, again, if you're upset about this kind of thing, spare me the tears about sending people home, because people in America are literally dying from this. And I could go on and on about Lake and Riley and more examples. So, yeah. Moving on, last story for the Trump segment here. An appeals court in New York tossed the $500 million case against Donald Trump. If you don't remember this exact case, because they tried to, hem him up with like 5 or 10 different cases at once, this was the case where people claimed that Trump overvalued the property of Mar-a-Lago, claiming it was worth only like $18 million. It's like, okay, dude. I gotta imagine that Letitia James must be pretty pissed about this, as she is facing federal charges herself for alleged mortgage fraud. So, turns out that you really do reap what you sow. Good luck, Letitia. You're gonna need it. And that concludes the Trump segment of this show. But we got more stuff to talk about. Tulsi Gabbard recently revoked the security clearances for 37 current and former national security officials who were involved, allegedly, in the Russia collusion hoax.
If you go to odni.gov, people who say, well, Tulsi, this is just your view or your interpretation. No, it's all in hundreds of pages of documents that I've declassified and released that show point by point exactly what happened through this timeline that showed this very dangerous thing that occurred in the creation of Russiagate, the creation of this manufactured intelligence assessment that essentially had the intent of undermining the voices and votes of the American people who elected Donald Trump. They were not happy with the outcome of that election. And so they created this politicized, weaponized piece of fake intelligence that, as you mentioned, then went on to serve as a foundation for everything that came after, the multiple investigations, the years-long Mueller investigation, 2 congressional impeachments, investigations in the raid at Mar-a-Lago. The list goes on and on. Ultimately, the real crime here was against the American people because this action singularly undermined the integrity of our democratic republic. What to speak of the fact that some of those folks and those 37 individuals that we directed the revocation of security clearances from today under the direction of President Trump, they aided and abetted in this action, this seditious conspiracy that undermined our democracy, undermined our republic, and broke that sacred trust that every one of these professionals is supposed to have from the American people.
So, again, I think this is another good step, but until some people are arrested for things like this, I see this as grandstanding for the Republican Party. So, till we see some perp walks, not really impressed. And speaking of, former officials getting justice, the FBI raided John Bolton's home and office on August 22nd, so a day ago from when I'm recording. The search was related to classified documents that President Trump alleges Bolton was leaking during his first term. However, Bolton was not arrested during the raids and is still walking freely. So, not sure what's going to come of this, but glad to see that they're going after people who were breaking the law and trying to undermine, the presidency. Now, moving on to a story that always gets a lot of attention. People are talking about the Supreme Court possibly taking up a hearing about overturning gay marriage. Now, I've heard both sides of this, that the Supreme Court is going to overturn it, the Supreme Court won't overturn it. And I should have mentioned this at the top. I always have references down below so you can go read all the stuff that I'm talking about. From what I was reading on the source listed, this is a lot of chatter, and I don't think that the Supreme Court will. Regardless if they take up the hearing or not, I personally think this is a bad idea politically for the Republican Party, as it will just dump a bucket of jet fuel on the fires of the left. I mean, they already claim that, the Trump administration is going after trans people and targeting the LGBT community, so this would just add fuel to that fire. Personally, I'd like the Supreme Court to overturn the NFA regulations first, as the tax amount passed in the big beautiful bill dropped the tax stamp from $200 to $0 for things like suppressors and short barrel rifles, things like that. So now there is legitimately no enforcement mechanism, and it is unconstitutional. So enough about that. But also, do you remember a woman by the name of Kim Davis? She was the Kentucky clerk who refused to issue a marriage license to a gay couple because of the sanctity of marriage. What you don't know is that she's been married 4 times to 3 different men. So if we're going to be talking about biblical talking points, she is an adulterer if any of those marriages ended for any reason other than infidelity by the husbands. My guess, this is just my opinion, that was probably not the case because there's a common denominator in all of those marriages. Also, for those who remember the gay wedding cake scandal, here's how I personally would have dealt with it if I was the baker of the cakes. I would have made the cake and treated those customers with the utmost respect. And when they came to pick up the cake, I would have invited them to church the following Sunday, since that's what Christians are supposed to do, reach out to those who aren't Christians and try to win them over. How do you do that? Maybe kill them with kindness. There's plenty of examples in the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, where Jesus approached people, average people, who were not living right and treated them with kindness and respect and compassion. Didn't beat them over the head with legalism, and they turned their lives around for all that we know. One famous story is the woman at the well. She was married. That's pretty relevant here. She was married 4 times and living with a dude who was not her husband, so she'd been with 5 different dudes. And Jesus was very kind to her in the whole interaction. And he told her, go and get your life turned around. And what did she do? She ran back into town, told everybody about this dude she just met at the well, and the whole town came running back to him. So that's in the Bible. You can look it up. Woman at the well. You'll find it. So that's how I would personally have gone about it. And I might have to bring up some more biblical stuff here toward the end. So, moving on. Texas. The whole state of Texas has been in the news recently because they are trying to redistrict, and it seems that they have won that fight, which would add 5 more Republican seats in Congress. So, hopefully the next Republicans that get appointed are good and not turncoats like Tony Gonzalez. By the way, Brandon Herrera is running for Congress again, and I got a feeling this time Brandon is going to win. So, not that Brandon needs my support, but you have it, and I will be rooting for you the entire time, Brandon. So, good luck, and hopefully you can get that guy out of Congress. However, in response to this, California is still going full retard and moving forward with their own redistricting to add 5 more Democrats. So, to all of you in California, if you want more of Gavin Newsom going forward, you can vote on this in November. If you think Gavin Newsom has done good and you want more Democrats running the country, vote for this in November because it will be on your ballot. If you're tired of the continued failed policies from Gavin Newsom and the Democrat Party as a whole, vote it down. It is up to you to break free from these damn commies. Nobody is coming to save you at this point. You have to make a decision. That is to all people in California. And if you've left California and are living somewhere else, quit voting Democrat because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So if you move to, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Florida, Ohio, quit voting Democrat. We don't want that shit here. Tired of this. I need a drink of coffee. All right. So, we all hate the corporate media, but we don't hate it enough. And that's obvious because MSNBC is rebranding to MS Now as the parent company Comcast is attempting to distance the network from NBC. I'd say that this new acronym abbreviation stands for manufactured shit now, but apparently it stands for My Source News Opinion World. But whatever they call themselves, it's not going to boost ratings, as many people are tired of the corporate media outlets in general. Excuse me. So, I would say good luck to them, but I hope that MS Now crashes and burns. And if you're tired of the corporate media, hit that subscribe button to my channel, because I feel like I'm doing good work. And unlike corporate media, if I make a mistake, I own up to it. So, feel free to call me out on anything. That's what we need, is accountability in the news. And speaking of accountability, damn, that was a good segue. Bed Bath & Beyond recently roasted California's policies. Marcus Lemonis, the executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond, said, quote, "This decision isn't about politics. It's about reality." And California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky environments for businesses in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep doors open, and harder to deliver value to customers, end quote. So you know you're fucked when a bankrupt company makes fun of you. And this dude's absolutely right. I mean, we saw tons and tons of stores in California close up shop. Target, CVS, Walmart. Bed Bath & Beyond's gone bankrupt and closed stores all over the country. But, when you allow people to just come in and steal up to, $1,000 worth of stuff and not get charged, then, yeah, companies are losing money. They're going to leave. So, again, this goes back to what I said a minute ago. If you're tired of the Democrat policies running states into the ground, vote that down in November. It is up to you, California. You can only save yourself. Now, people are making fun of Cracker Barrel for changing the iconic logo after decades of having the original logo. The company has also changed the look of some of the stores to make it look more modern, and a lot of people, myself included, hate it.
Honestly, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing. I'll give you another soundbite. I actually happened to be in Orlando last week with all of our managers. We bring them together and every other year. And the number one question that I got asked, Michael, was, how can I get a remodel? When can I get a remodel? How do I get on the list?
Oh, really?
So because the feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members. They want to work in a wonderful restaurant. So we're doing everything for our guests and our team members.
Well, Julie Messino, it's wonderful to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you again.
Answering those questions for all the Cracker Barrel fans out there. There's a lot of great changes.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Robin?
Can I get in writing that the peg game is going to stay?
The peg game is staying.
Okay.
So are the rocking chairs,
And the
fireplace, vintage decor. It's all there.
All right. Okay, because that would be a deal breaker. That would be a deal breaker.
So since this change, Cracker Barrel has lost over $100 million. So it seems like they're having their own Bud Light moment right now, as the similarities are striking. And again, why do liberal white women always ruin everything we love? I don't understand this. I don't understand it. So if you're a big company, quit promoting liberal white women into upper management, because this shit will happen. Alrighty. Now, kind of coming to an end here, trying to land the plane, got a couple more stories to talk about. The Israeli Defense Force is trying to recruit Jewish people outside of the country of Israel to fight Hamas. Their goal is to recruit about 700 people per year, and they're looking at to start with like the United States and France. So I find it interesting that their own people don't want to fight anymore, so they're going outside the country, but whatever. And if you're like, whoa, how can they do that? Israel has a law that anybody of Jewish descent can come to Israel and like basically get citizenship immediately. So that's how they're able to do this. And that's going to come up again here in just a second. But, I don't know who's doing their PR, but I think if they took a page from American Eagle's marketing, they may be more successful. You see what I mean here. And if you don't know who that is Abby Shapiro, Ben Shapiro's sister. Okay. These last couple stories are also should make your blood boil. An Israeli cybersecurity official named Tom Artyom Alexandrovich, sounds more Russian than Hebrew, but whatever. This guy, among several others, was arrested in Nevada for trying to lure children for sex. One of the other men arrested was a pastor from Las Vegas Redemption Church named Neil Harrison Creasy, and he subsequently resigned from the church once he was released from jail. However, the Israeli official somehow went back to Israel, and the Israeli government has denied he was even arrested. You would think that a guy working in cybersecurity would be smart enough to cover his tracks online, but a joint effort between local, state, and federal law enforcement caught these men trying to prey on children. That's not the worst part here. I think this guy should be extradited, but it seems like both the United States and Israel don't, want to actually come down hard on child predators, because this isn't the first case of an Israeli or Jewish person abusing children and fleeing to Israel in order to evade the justice system in the country which they lived. Another case that happened, 10 years ago now, a woman named Malka Leifer sexually abused children in Australia in 2015 and moved to Israel once the allegations started coming forward. So I think that the United States should first take a stronger stance on those who prey on children, and then stop giving Israel aid until their country, their government does the same. I'm tired of these short prison sentences for these monsters. I feel like I should say they should be locked up for life, but that would be a waste of our taxpayer money, if you catch my drift. And apparently this is a big problem in Israel too. I have a link down below about a very long article. I encourage you to go read it. Yeah. So speaking of child predators, the state of Louisiana is suing Roblox for allowing child predators to sexually abuse children. According to Polygon, quote, the state alleges that Roblox Corporation has failed to implement substantial safety controls and, quote, has knowingly enabled and facilitated the systemic sexual exploitation and abuse of children across the United States, end quote. According to the state's lawsuit, Roblox Corporation has, quote, permitted and perpetuated an online environment in which child predators thrive, directly contributing to the widespread victimization of minor children, end quote. Yeah. Roblox has also apparently lost a ton of money on their shares in the stock market because of this, so good. I hope it keeps dropping like a rock into the Mariana Trench. And this has become such an issue that Chris Hansen is getting involved in this whole situation.
You may have heard that my streaming crime network, True Blue, and I are investigating the exploitation of children on the popular gaming platform Roblox. Well, it's absolutely true, and we're deep into it. I've already interviewed law enforcement investigators and victims of this horrible activity. And we have some collaborators, some people who've been working in this space, including Schlepp, who have committed to help us in this endeavor. Will Roblox actually say anything about it? Will it make any changes? We're going to do our best to hold them accountable. Stay tuned. We're working hard on this project.
So good on Louisiana for doing this. And finally, in my opinion, if you're an adult playing Roblox, I automatically assume you're a creep. I automatically assume you're a pedophile, because the game is essentially Legos on the computer. It is meant for kids. So if you are over the age of like 12, 13 playing this, I think it's a little weird. If you're at the age of 16, 18 playing this game, I think you're a fucking creep. There's tons of different games out there to play. Just saying. And finally, last story of the day, and we're still in Louisiana. Louisiana is set to chemically castrate a convicted sex offender named Thomas Allen McCartney. This monster pled guilty to raping a 7-year-old girl. And this isn't the first time he is struck, as he was convicted of rape in 2011 and had prior arrests in 2006 and 2010 for sexually abusing minors. So at what point do we just start executing these people? Like, go through the legal process, have their day in court, before a jury, you're found guilty, first time. It should be first time offense, boom, done. And why was he even let out after the first arrest in 2006? I don't understand it. And again, this goes back to what I said earlier. I am tired of these slap on the wrist punishments for child sexual predators when they cannot be rehabilitated. People like this cannot be rehabilitated. They are just walking monsters, and when they're arrested and locked up for life, they're just a drain on taxpayer money. So, if you're a politician watching this, you need to run on this issue alone, and I feel like you'd have a pretty damn good chance of winning your election, or re-election, whatever. Yeah, I don't understand why we go easy on sexual predators, but, you know, in some states, If you're found with, a tiny amount of weed, you get 25 years to life. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. So that's all I've got for this week. Take care. Protect your kids. Don't let them play Roblox. Give them a book. Seriously, give them a book or something. Do some art projects with them at the kitchen table. Get them off the internet, because while the internet's good for finding information, it can also be a double-edged sword. So with that being said, take care, and I'll see you all next week.